tall man. Creak. The first step on the stairs cried. Frank had waited for this moment. The night the tall man would come. He closed his eyes and listened. Thud. The third step smacked against the riser. His right arm shook, and he steadied it with his left hand. Fear and anticipation licked at his heart. Flutters erupted in his stomach, and he wondered if he could go through with it. Thud. Creak. Thud. Creak. 4 more steps to the door. Frank's skin burned, his blood coursed, and spread the fire of anger throughout his body. His arm stopped shaking, and the butterflies fell cold in his gut. Ping. The loose pin on the door popped as the tall man inched the door open. Frank rose from his squat in the dark. He peered through the crack that served as his vantage of the room beyond. Scrape. The tall man's jacket brushed ever so slightly against the door frame. Frank watched the tall man enter the room and slink across it with the grace and stealth of a prowling tomcat. The tall man, true to his name, stood 6.5 feet tall, head to toe. Black concealed every inch of his frame. The tall man retrieved a small rag and a glass vial from his pocket. He poured the contents of the vial upon the cloth. The tall man stood next to the bed, above Frank's daughter, Sarah. Silent was the closet door as Frank slid it open. His steps were unheard as he approached the tall man from behind. Click-clack. Frank pumped his shotgun. The tall man stood still as stone. Bang. Busy butcher. The ping of water droplets smashing against concrete rang through the darkness. Mice skittered along pipes, their nails clicked in rhythmic ticks. Every sound cracked like a whip in the still air. Musk and mildew drenched every breath with their pungent presence. Chop, slap, chop, slap. A foul duet echoed from deep within the darkness. The song was muffled, but it carried just enough to be heard. A man sat against the wall. The damp stone chilled his battered skin. For days the chops and slaps whispered dread into the deepest seat of his being, a place within himself where primal fear ruled supreme. But now it calmed him. He knew what awaited him. The others who went into the light before him had not returned. He was the only one left. He took comfort that he never heard their whimpers or screams from beyond the light. His arm quivered as he brought a bit of the stone's dew to his cracked lips. Chains rattled, and the collar around his neck dug into his skin as he struggled to meet his hand. Light surged like a wave and crashed against his frail form. His eyes retreated from the radiant force behind sunken lids. His time had come. Marcus. The voice was calm and sweet. It held the warmth and vibrance of the sun. Home crept to the forefront of his thought, a little cabin just off the beaten trail in the backwoods of Kentucky. He remembered the smell of honeysuckle and the dance of fireflies in the night. Fear shredded like darkness in the light, and acceptance lifted the last heavy stone from atop his shoulders. His eyes opened. Brother's woe. Oliver's flashlight cut through the shadow of night and basked the trail ahead in a cone of light. On either side of the path, the gnarled trees stood watch. Their twisted branches hung above his head, their bony fingers suspended just above his jacket's hood. "Tommy, where are you?" His voice met no response. His words melted into the darkness and died. "Come on, this isn't funny. You're going to be in big trouble when Mom finds out you were playing in the woods again." Oliver knew he would be in just as much trouble. A twig snapped as something scurried through the underbrush next to his right ankle. Oliver's heart raced, and goosebumps broke out on his skin. He patrolled the light along the side of the trail and saw nothing. "Oliver!" A whisper broke the silent air behind him. Tommy? He turned around. Tommy peered from behind a tree several yards off the trail. Come on, Booger. It's time to go home. Tension released its grasp on his heart upon finding his brother. Tommy squealed playfully as he ran into the darkness in stark defiance of his older brother. Get back here, Oliver yelled. He sprinted after Tommy. The path he traced weaved between the trees and rocks with no rhyme or reason. No matter how fast he ran, Tommy was just out of reach. Tommy wasn't hard to follow. His red and white striped sweater stuck out against the dark woods. It was all wrong. Tommy had never been nearly as fast as Oliver, and he was a huge chicken to boot. He still slept with a nightlight to keep the monsters away. Oliver chased his brother into a part of the woods he didn't recognize. The trees bordered a small lake, its water still. Fog rolled into the woods and wrapped around Oliver's ankles. Tommy stood on the bank looking out over the water. Beside him was a woman. Her hair was black as night, and her green dress billowed like the fog encircling them. Tommy, who is that? Oliver's voice cracked. His heart pounded so hard he could feel it in his fingertips. Tommy didn't make a sound. He remained planted in place, like one of the many trees around them. Ma'am, I need to take my brother home now. Thanks for finding him. His voice betrayed him. It quivered and quaked. Something wasn't right about this strange woman. He could feel it. Oliver took a step forward. Twig and leaf crunched underfoot. She took Tommy's hand, and they skid across the surface of the water, like they were skating on ice. Oliver ran to the bank. Let go of my brother! He picked up a rock and chucked it at the woman, but they had already reached the center of the lake, far beyond Oliver's range. Stop! He cried. The woman's head spun around to face him. Her face was twisted into the most sickening smile Oliver had ever seen. Her eyes glowed yellow through the mist that now slithered up and coiled around them like snakes. Tommy! Oliver called a final time. The woman's jaw dropped to her chest in a blink. Her scream, shrill and cold, split the air and filled the night. Tears streaked Oliver's cheeks. Fear drove him beyond words, beyond screams. Tommy didn't flinch. He didn't make a peep. Oliver kept his flashlight trained on his brother. Unsure of what to do, he just stared on. For a moment, his flashlight flickered. For that brief moment, the world was drenched in complete darkness. When it came back on, the woman was gone. The fog cleared, and as it melted off the surface of the water, Oliver's silence broke. His cries rang loud. True manifestation of fear and turmoil erupted from him like a torrent. In the middle of the lake floated a red and white striped sweater.